Hey everybody, Ian here. So I am here today with something that will hopefully be interesting to people. I guess we'll see. But I want to talk about story structure, which I have done one time before. It was with an episode of Friends. But today I just want to talk about the 1999 version of The Mummy, starring Brendan Fraser, among others. But before I get started, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I literally always forget to say that, and so I put it in bold red letters in my notes so that I would actually say it. But so anyway, story structure. What is it? Honestly, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the structure of the story, what things happen, when they happen, how they interact with and have influence over other things that happen. That is story structure right there. And any writer will tell you that structure matters. If it's just a bunch of random stuff happening, it comes out very messy. Structure just matters. There has to be that underlying framework in order to keep things moving and to keep things in order. And similarly, any musician would tell you that the beat of a song matters. Any little flares or frills or tangents that the instruments do, or maybe that come in the vocals, they all come from the beat. They originate from that underlying structure. And it's the same way with screenwriting. You could even think of song crafting as like musical storytelling. And interestingly, each thing that happens in a screenplay is actually called a beat. You can read through a screenplay beat by beat and look at all the things that happen, big and small. But so anyway, back to the Mummy. Before I get into explaining the structure of the movie, I'm going to quickly explain the plot, and I'm actually going to be setting a little timer for myself for 2 minutes and 10 seconds. That's how long I figured out it takes to tell this. But I just don't want this part to take too long. And I feel like this should be obvious, but please be prepared for spoilers during my little 2:10 timer, which I am starting now. So the plot of this movie is basically it's that thousands of years ago in ancient Egypt there is a guy named Imhotep who he eventually becomes the mummy, and he was having an affair with the pharaoh's wife, and so the pharaoh orders his wife and Imhotep's posse, his gang of priests, all to be executed. Now the gang of priests, they are mummified alive, supposedly forever. And Imhotep, the guy actually having the affair with his wife, he has his tongue cut off, and he's actually buried alive with a bunch of these beetles in his tomb. They're like dumped in there right as they shut the door, so he's tortured. But then thousands of years later, in the early 1900s, there are several competing teams of explorers who are gathering together to kind of compete to find this fabled lost tomb and all the treasures inside. And after they find this tomb, they start to raid it, and they end up jump-starting this curse that had kept the mummy, the titular character, dormant for these thousands of years. And so the mummy comes back to life. Obviously, it's a movie called The Mummy. And he brings a series of plagues with him, locusts and fire raining from the sky and blood in the water, literally problems of biblical proportions. And he initially comes back as a classic mummy. He's wrapped in the toilet paper, but as he grows more powerful, he takes on this human form. He's eventually replaced. It goes from a CGI mummy to a human actor playing him. And eventually, after enough havoc is wreaked, the good guys beat him because it's a movie. And they basically read the counter curse from this ancient prophecy book that had brought him back into life in the first place, and that destroys him. And then that's basically the end. We thankfully get to see one of the final remaining bad guys get his comeuppance, and then the group of main characters, they ride a camel off into the sunset, and that's the end. Except then there are like 5 sequels as well. But so that's the movie with oh, my timer just started going off. I'm sure you could hear that. But so anyway, now that that's out of the way, let's talk about structure. Now, depending on who you ask, a movie can either be split into 2 parts at the halfway point, or into three parts at the 1/3 and 2/3 points. Now, I don't mean to be a total politician about this, but both sides are actually right. And here's what I mean. Now, the halfway point is a simpler route, so I'm going to explain that first. Exactly halfway through this movie, the mummy comes back to life. The movie has two very clear parts, before the mummy comes back and after the mummy comes back. And it's all because these stupid white bitches, they read aloud an ancient prophecy that repeatedly says, like, do not read this, death will find you. And then the mummy comes back. Oh my god. But so anyway, that's the halfway point. Straightforward, pretty clear cut. Not much else to look at, right? Wrong! But so anyway, ideally, you should also be able to look at the 1/3 and 2/3 marks as significant turning points in a movie, and the 1999 Mummy is actually a good example of that. I actually call these pillar moments because they really do, they hold up the movie like pillars. And at the 1/3 mark of any movie or episode, that's when everything should be packed, put together, set into place so we can begin driving forward into the actual plot of the movie. Any context is established, characters are gathered together, the actual journey is starting now. And they should be officially on a mission at this point. And so, a third of the way through The Mummy, the groups find this hidden tomb and go underground into it. That is 40 minutes into this 120-minute movie. And things immediately start going wrong. The first group of the people who are not the main characters, they open up a tomb or a sarcophagus, and there's an ancient booby trap. It's actually pressurized salt acid melts their faces. And this one lone guy who's all by himself, he gets attacked by one of those beetles. And there's more on that in a minute. And then the main group finds the sarcophagus of the mummy, the titular character. And they find that even though it's, 3,000 years old, he's actually still decomposing. He's not like a skeleton, there's still like rotted flesh. But so, this thing gets them, they're underground officially at the 1/3 mark. They're in the tomb of the mummy. This is that 1/3 mark thing that I'm talking about where they are officially on the mission. But one thing I liked that this movie did is that it also highlights the savagery of the mummification in the beginning of the movie, back, 3,000 years ago, because we see that the priests are mummified alive and this guy is buried with all those beetles in his tomb. But that's kind of all the information we get. And later, 45 minutes into the movie, they are explaining that part of the mummification process is that they stick this red hot poker up your nose and they swirl around it in your brain until they can pull your brain out through your nose. And it is revealed when this guy gets attacked by that beetle, it's revealed that these are flesh-eating beetles. And you see it crawl into his skin, and it crawls all the way up his body and goes like up his neck and up his face, and then like goes into his brain and like kills him. And so I really enjoyed that they did these things this way. They let us know the mummification process and about these flesh-eating beetles way after we first see them. And so I feel like it really draws out the fun for the audience. I think that was a really effective, structuring, storytelling, whatever you want to call it. I really like that they did that. But so not only is the group moving in a clear direction at this point, since they're inside the tomb, we also understand why the mummy, the mummy, is so upset because he was, eaten alive by these beetles, and his team had their brains mushed out with a red hot poker while they were still alive. So that's the 1/3 mark, and then halfway through, the mummy comes back, and then we get to the 2/3 mark. Now, the 2/3 mark of any movie or episode, this is supposed to be the point when your main characters are at their lowest. Everything is going wrong, and it seems like all hope is lost. And so, at the 2/3 point in the mummy is fully regenerated, or almost. There's still a couple little patches of holes where you can see his skeleton, but this is when they switch from a CGI mummy to a human actor playing him. And actually, there's this really gross moment where like a beetle, one of those flesh-eating beetles, it crawls out of the hole in his chest and is walking like on top of his skin. It's walking up his neck and crawls into this big wound in the side of his cheek, and then he starts like eating it. He starts chewing on it, and it was like, oh no, ew, gross. um but so anyway, that was just like, oh god, that was like, oh, was not prepared for that. But so, like I said, the 2/3 point is when the heroes are supposed to be at their lowest point, which checks out. This is when the mummy is officially back, totally back and at his most powerful. He's still really fucking shit up at this point, with the fire and the locusts and the other plagues and stuff. But so we have these three pillar moments, the 1/3 mark, the 1/2 mark, and the 2/3 mark, each of which ends up being a pivotal point in the movie. They get into the tomb at 1/3, and so they pivot to like only mummy stuff. And, the mummy comes back halfway through, so that's when they pivot to there being like an actual villain in the movie. And then we get to the 2/3 mark when he's fully regenerated, and that's where we pivot again to there being, a fully formed Emotep, who's seemingly invincible. And so, yeah, I thought that this was a well put together movie. And so, I was obviously paying attention to the structure of the movie as I watched it. And since I enjoyed the structure, that made me, I think, enjoy the movie more. But I enjoyed this movie. It was just a fun, fast-paced, light-hearted action movie. And so I was in the mood for that. But I was really pleasantly surprised how much I liked it when I was watching it. I was also pleasantly surprised by something else, because you know who I find hot? Him. You know who else 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 I find hot? Him. You know who I find hot by association? Him. You know who I'm not personally attracted to, but I understand is statistically hot? Her. You know who I find kind of annoying, though? Him. And you know who else I find annoying? Him. Anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about this movie. I think this was kind of a short video. Yeah, it was only like 13 minutes. I do have one important question left, though, about the movie, but I'm actually going to save that for a follow-up video this month, just because I wanted to keep this relatively short. But so if you're still here, thank you for watching the whole thing. I hope this was interesting. I was kind of heartened by the response to the Legally Blonde video. I was worried no one would find that interesting, talking about symbolism, I'm just a writer. But so I hope that people enjoy this video, or at least, take something away from it. If you want to write your own scripts, maybe this would help out in some, demented way. But yeah, again, if you're still here, thank you very much for watching. And just a final reminder to, again, in bold red letters, to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you like this. And I will see you all next time. Have a great night. Bye.